All right, everybody, welcome to Zoom with Zola. This is Plan Z's VP of Anger Management, Chris Lytle. I'm going to be your host along with Jessica Bonham, one of our team members. And a little later, you're going to have the opportunity to ask Zola a question and or share some of your Plan Z experiences. You can go to the control panel, just hover over the bottom of your screen, and you can ask your question, raise your hand and ask a question right over the Zoom microphone, or you can chat your message to Jessica Bonham. You'll see her picture and icon as part of the group there. And you can send it directly to her. You can send it to the whole audience. So let's Zoom with Zola. Welcome everyone. And here is Zola. Hi, Zola.
Good afternoon and good morning to everyone. I'm not sure how many time zones we have involved in today, but that just occurred to me that some of you may have just eaten breakfast a while ago. We're going to have, this is pretty exciting. I just want to say that. I used to do what we called Second Tuesday calls, and those were webinars. And they lasted about an hour, and I did all my prep for those and everything else. But the entire time I was talking to a void. So I can't tell you how exciting it is for me right now to see faces. So for those of you that are currently being shy and not showing your screen, please reconsider, just because there are some things where I would like to be able to ask you a question, take a little survey, have you raise your hand, something like that, so that we can all participate. But we're going to cover probably 4 or 5 topics today. And then there's going to be a chunk of the meeting in the middle where you'll be able to ask me questions. Some of you sent questions in advance, and others of you may come up with something on the spur of the moment. So Chris has given you your instructions on how to be able to relate that as far as raising a hand and being able to ask a question. And nothing's out of bounds, so feel free. The first topic that we're going to talk about is the quarantine and the amount of weight that people gained during the last year. I have a fancy little report here that I'm going to be referring to, so I'm literally going to be reading a few things, so please don't be offended or distracted by that. Chris, you need to get rid of that really fast.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so this was the dog's picture that's on the front of the report. And one of the first things that it relates is that 61% of American adults reported undesired weight gain or loss during the coronavirus outbreak. So that's quite a hefty amount of the population. This thing was done by the American Psychological Association, and it involved the World Health Organization. The results of this report actually came out on the exact day when we hit 1 year from the original declaration of the COVID-19 pandemic. So prior to the pandemic, about 1 in 4, or about 4 in 10 Americans, were already obese, according to the CDC. And according to the Stress in America report, more than 2 in 5 of the surveyed adults revealed that they gained more weight than they intended to over the past 12 months. So here's the first sort of participation survey or quiz question. And it's voluntary, but there's no prize, but there's no way to lose either. What I'd like you to do is guess how many pounds the average American adult gained in the last year. Everybody talks about the quarantine 15. What do you think it actually was? And if I understand this correctly, Chris, they can just type in their answer, and Jessica can report out, or you can report out.
Yep, they can just chat it in, and we'll see it. Chat it to everybody. We'll have a look.
I'm seeing the numbers coming in on the bottom of my screen now. All right, so before we get to the answers of that, and I will run through those and then I'll give you the final answer. By raise of hands, one of the things I'd like to check is how many of you on the call today are Plan Z dieters? Raise your hand. All right, and how many of you are checking us out, thinking about doing the diet? Raise your hand. All right, that's helpful, thank you. All right, Jessica, can you see the list of the answers? I only saw them one at a time, so I can't report out on what the guesses were.
Yeah, we got a range of guesses from 2016, a couple around 30, 32, some 10. Someone guessed 2 pounds per month.
Okay, so Jessica, when we move forward, if you can turn up your volume a little bit, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm having a hard time hearing you. So the answer is, and a lot of you were really close. Remember the quarantine 15, the average adult, if you look in that top right red column, gained 29 pounds in the last year. Now look at millennials. Holy cow. All right, I think maybe this is the first huge stressor they've ever had in their lives. I don't know exactly what to attribute it to, but the millennials gained on average 41 pounds. So for the number of people that lost weight, there are a whole lot of people making up for that with the amount that they gained. So out of this report, it says, in fact, 1 in 10 said they gained more than 50 pounds, which is a textbook sign that people are struggling to cope with mental health challenges. And indeed, the report also found that 1 in 3 Americans is sleeping less during the pandemic, and more than half of the parents said, of course, their level of stress has increased quite a bit. And homeschooling, all the other issues, there are lots of things that we can attribute to that. 54% reported that they were exercising less, and 68% admitted they were snacking more. So people who put on more than 11 pounds, I just want to get to, these are other things that we should get on the table. And that is that people who put on more than 11 pounds are at higher risk of developing coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, while those that gain more than 25 pounds are put at a higher risk of stroke. The pictures that are going by, this is what's happening during homeschooling. And in a really unfortunate twist, the extra weight that people have gained as a result of the pandemic can actually make them more susceptible to COVID. I don't know how many of you have heard that, but there are states that have taken action because of that. Even like in New York and Illinois, for example, as far as their qualifying conditions, they added comorbidities that can allow adults under 60 or 65 to get the COVID vaccine, because if their BMI was over 31, they're obese, and like I've said, they're more likely to get COVID, so you want to be able to take action and get them the vaccine. Now, for those of you that haven't gotten your vaccine yet, and you're interested, but you think, well, like me, I'm 64. So, there are people in different ages that don't qualify yet in your particular area. And if you don't know what your BMI is, I want you to know that you can Google BMI free calculator, and one will come up. It'll just ask you your height and weight, and then it calculates it out. So then you can check and see if you live in one of the states where they're making that exception to get younger people vaccinated faster if they're overweight. So pediatricians are warning that the disruption of in-person schooling, sports, other activities is causing children to gain weight. Veterinarians also reported in that pets are getting pudgy. Banfield Pet Hospital, which is the nation's largest general veterinary practice, said that 42% of pet owners admitted that their pets had gained weight during the quarantine. We have a cat who is, or his name is Titan, and he's a Bengal, and he looked a little bit like this dachshund 6 or 8 months ago, and then we got a new kitten. So he started getting lots more exercise, so our cat has actually lost weight during this process. So that kind of covers off the quarantine weight gain, and 29 pounds is significant. So you probably see me write another column about this fairly soon to give you more detail. All right, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is the best of the pandemic. So what happened is, a year ago, everything locked down, restaurants closed, pubs that served food closed, everything closed. So I haven't been in a restaurant, actually, update. I did go to a restaurant on St. Patrick's Day. We went at 3:30 in the afternoon, stayed till about 5:30. There was practically no one there, maybe 5 people, so we felt safe. They had even brought out an extra bartender thinking that their volume might be really huge. And it turned out there were 5 of us in this restaurant. But other than that, I haven't been in a restaurant in over a year. So I went into major cooking mode. And part of what happened in the process, Jennifer came to me fairly early and said, we could really use some more 3.5 recipes, which means, a little bit of pasta, a little bit of potatoes, things like that. So I've designed dozens more recipes throughout the year that got added in at various stages of the diet. But I've definitely been eating more pasta and potatoes this year than I have in a long time. But I'm proud to say I never gained more than 3 pounds in the last year. So, and right now, I'm right back to even. So you can get away with eating pasta and potatoes. If you're just thinking about the diet now, or you're in the early stages, I want you to know that once you get your weight really stabilized, you can get away with some of that. And Jim Bettenhauser is a real veteran at this. I think John probably is too. John, aren't you the attorney that's from years ago?
Dirty, slimy, scum-sucking lawyer.
Yeah, you. Great guy. See, I remember a lot of dieters over the years. We've got over 6,000 clients now in 43 states and 10 countries. So, but some people just stand out. All right, so like I said, you can have more pasta, you can have potatoes. I call myself the queen of 4 French fries now. It's all a matter of getting the satisfaction, but keeping some kind of limitation. But the story goes that Chris and I were eating and watching a movie in our den. And this is about a month ago. And he reached out his hand and he took the remote away, which he never does. And he paused the movie. And then he said something I'm never going to forget. He said, talking about how he's been eating like a king for years now. He's been eating particularly well over the last year. He always enjoys my cooking. He's very good at telling me that he's enjoying his meal. But this time he said he'd eaten the 3 best meals of the pandemic all in the last week. And my jaw just dropped. I thought, man, I've been cooking every single day for a year. And this guy's telling me he's had his 3 best meals in the last 7 days. So what's up with that? And I just laughed, and I'm still giggling about it now. But what I thought I would do is real quickly share all 3 recipes with you. They are all posted on the site. If you want to take a note, you can go looking for them. The first one is my Asian salmon. Now this one's listed as Z3.5 because it has a little brown sugar in it. But it's a standby oldie but goodie for me. It's been on the website for a few years. Obviously I pulled it out recently to feed it to Chris again. But the difference between the recipe that's on the site and the one that he was raving about is the version that's on the site that gives you the instructions on how to cook it is for grilled salmon. This time, the only thing I did different that he noticed so much was that I roasted it instead of grilled it. So that's an option. Next up is chicken scallopini. This is one that I made because we were, in lockdown. I was looking for more Z3 recipes that I could cook. So this is traditional Italian, maybe a little bit easier than the one, your Italian grandma made if you have one of those. And then lastly, the one that prompted the comment and got Chris to grab the remote and pause the movie is also a Z3 recipe. It's called Cajun butter steak. Now, I will admit, lots of times I go on different websites and I look for what I call inspiration recipes. What can I do to this one to make it different? And so that I can claim it as my own, as an original. And if you're ever in a cooking competition, the rules are that if you change 3 elements of the recipe, it's now an original recipe for you. So if it was roasted before and you grilled it now, that's one element. If you changed it from pork to chicken, that's another one. If you changed up some of the ingredients, that would change it. Just changing portions, taking your recipe for 6 people and making it for 3 people doesn't count. That's just doing the math. But if you change it up enough, it does become yours. And so this Cajun butter steak is one that I did find on a website, and it was so good I didn't have to Zolify it very much to make it good and workable as far as being an original recipe. So here's one of the things that I'd like to do to try to get some participation.
Let me take a couple of these chats. Jim, it's Cajun butter steak, and Richard says he had Cajun butter steak last night and he too found it yummy.
Cool. All right, well, I'd like to get some more participation from the audience because we've all been shut down, right? We've been spending a whole lot more time at home. So what I'd like a few of you people to do if you raise your hand, we can unmute your microphone or whatever, is to give us an idea of a favorite recipe that you've had while you've been stuck at home. This is your way to be able to rate the recipes and tell people who are on the call that are thinking about doing Plan Z but haven't made the leap yet what you think of the food. Who wants to go first? Vicky.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself. I'm sorry, I'm at work. You didn't want to hear me giving apartment information away to anyone. Anyway, I've done a couple of things, but my favorite thing is probably the Brussels sprouts recipe. Being that spices like garlic powder and other Cajun spices or additional spices, you can make Brussels sprouts taste any way you want them to when you roast them in the oven with the olive oil spray. My husband eats them, and my husband's not a big vegetable eater. So
No, Vicky,
wanted
I
to
agree
point
with
that
you.
out. You can really twist it around a little bit and put some different spices in there and make them taste a little different.
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Vicky, because I absolutely hated Brussels sprouts until I ordered a meal in a restaurant. It was a Christmas party with our company, probably 15 years ago. And the side dish that came was oven roasted Brussels sprouts to the point where they were almost blackened. And they were so good, I couldn't believe it. So I've been a Brussels sprout fan ever since.
Excellent.
All right, next volunteer to tell us about a favorite recipe that you like from Plan Z. And if you don't volunteer, I point.
Go ahead. Paul has, go ahead, unmute yourself, Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So I'm 3 rounds in and doing my 3rd round with my wife, who's on her 1st round. She really digs the Frito meatloaf and the chicken Milano. Those are 2 of her favorites. And then we've also made the sloppy joes a bunch of times.
Well, so you're 3 rounds into this, Paul, and you've lost a considerable amount of weight. If you feel free to share, that would be great. But can you explain to non-dieters or people who haven't done Plan Z yet, what makes the food different than other diets you tried?
There's just plenty of it. That's the thing. It's all, I mean, I did Nutrisystem way back in the day. The stuff that you got in the boxes was, you still ended up having to do a whole lot of shopping. So it's like, really, what were you saving? As far as effort goes, I didn't really know all the chemicals and things that were in the awfully chemically smelling breads that came in the Nutrisystem boxes that they had. So I mean, with Plan Z, it's like everything is there's very little bit that's pre-processed or pre-packaged, other than like spices, you know, like minced garlic and that kind of stuff. Everything's
But you're
all
still able to find the time to cook, to enjoy the food, rather
yeah.
than
I
pulling
mean,
it out, putting it in the microwave.
you do have to make that commitment to allow yourself a good hour or so to do your meal planning and your prep and cooking time. But you know, once you settle into the fact that you need to do that so that you can eat healthy and lose the weight, yeah, it ends up being significantly worth it. And I'm testament of that as hovering at about 130 pounds off.
Well, and how many diets do you get to take Fritos and grind them up and put them in your meatloaf?
Right, exactly, exactly.
All right, I see Jim's hand raised.
Can I?
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, yeah, I have to agree with Vicky and Zola about the Brussels sprouts. I hated them, and I also, I don't know if I hated, but I didn't like salmon until I went on the diet. This was back in 2012, and we've been eating salmon and Brussels sprouts forever, and a lot more vegetables, fresh vegetables, roasted, same way we do the Brussels sprouts. And my favorites were anything with poblanos. Poblano stew and stuffed poblanos were awesome, and the unstuffed cabbage rolls. Actually, those were some of my favorites, but I didn't find any that I disliked.
Jim, I'd like to get some feedback from you. You dieted with us so long ago. I think you just said 2012. And you have maintained this as a lifestyle. Give me some feedback on how difficult or how easy that is.
Well, it was pretty easy. I mean, I had a pretty easy time with, I did 2 rounds. I lost about 70 pounds in 2 rounds. I have to be honest and say I've gained back about 20, but I'm trying to get rid of that now, and at least now I know how to get rid of it. I think my metabolism needs a little boost of some kind. I had a bottle of the ZR42, I think it was. I'm still I started on that a little bit again.
Just remember, ZR42 doesn't help you lose weight. It helps your liver function.
Right, and doesn't it help with your metabolism a little bit?
It will. Most overweight people have what's called a sluggish liver. It just isn't operating as efficiently as it should. And
Right.
if your liver is operating efficiently, you'll naturally process food better and you would be more likely to lose weight. So it's not that you're headed in the wrong direction by using the ZR42, but there are more elements in the ZR50 that actually help you lose the weight. And I just don't want to confuse anyone listening to the call that the ZR42 can substitute for ZR50, because they're definitely not the same.
Right, I wasn't substituting it, but I thought I'd just give the metabolism a little boost again, and I go to the gym 3 days a week, and I thought between the 2 of them it might give me a little kickstart.
Yeah, rock on.
I have 3 bottles of the ZR52 for the preparation for the next time I go on a cruise, but hopefully I won't need it. But it's there if it's needed, but I've been putting that off for quite a while.
Yeah, Chris and I went on a cruise last Christmas and New Year's, not this past one, but a year before. And we came back and did a reduction too. So Georgia's hand is up.
Hi, well, thank you, Zola. It's cool to see Paul and the rest on here. My favorite meal has been the lockdown chili, in all variations of the chili. It just feels like it's very satisfying and it sticks to your ribs, so you don't feel neglected during the diet. I'm currently 65 pounds down, so I've made it last week and I'm making it again this week. So thanks to everyone for their support on this. It's been huge.
All right, thanks for your contribution. Chris, I think we probably should move on. You're going to talk about VP anger management, unless there's something else that you want to relate from.
I'm just looking at the chat, Zola, and Georgia says, go Paul, congratulations. And Vicky says, I'm on round 2 and I'm down 41 pounds.
All right.
She says 411 pounds. I hope that's a typo. And
Well, there was a question that came up in the chat box there. Maybe we can address it.
go ahead, Jen.
Someone is asking if they would be able to incorporate their CSA boxes while on Plan Z.
CSA is real food straight from the farmer. So absolutely. Not everything they're going to have in that box is necessarily going to be allowed on Z reduction, but maybe they could work with their CSA supplier to kind of customize their box.
Yeah, it is 41 pounds, so that's good. Any other hand? Yeah, let's go and we'll talk about this a little bit. The question is, why does Plan Z have a VP of anger management? And the story is that when Zola started the business, we already had a training company and we were doing sales training for the broadcast industry, but I wanted to be a part of this business because I've always been fascinated by nutrition and fitness, and I thought I knew everything about it. But when Zola said, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be VP of anger management because I wanted to use my research skills and connect you, the dieters, with some new information that'll make you angry enough and smart enough to succeed. And so we're saying, that 60% of the value of Plan Z is the education. It helps you keep the weight off after you lose whatever you've lost. So I see red whenever I see the bad advice that we've been given, and we're getting more advice every day of the pandemic. But you've really got to get your mind right to be successful. You got to have the right information. And so, you know, if you think eggs are going to kill you, you really need to know what eating, you know, 90 to 120 pounds of sugar really does to you. And we talk about the obesity epidemic is more deadly than the COVID pandemic. It really is. So this is something I just researched yesterday. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, says that 6 in 10 Americans live with at least one chronic disease. So whether that's heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, chronic diseases are diseases that are the leading causes of death and disability, and they're the leading driver of healthcare costs, and they're not caused by a virus or a germ, they're caused by our lifestyle. So I'm concerned that you know, doctors want to manage your diabetes instead of cure it. And you know, foods are really engineered to make you crave them. We talk about the standard American diet a lot in the coaching, and the standard American diet is 62% processed foods, oil, sweets, refined grains, corn. And that's why Americans are getting sick. And that's why obesity is a pre-existing condition, because whatever makes you fat is making you sick. So this was the story. This was today's front page news in Chattanooga. And it was from the New York Times. Vaccinated people to get a free donut from Krispy Kreme. I suppose everybody saw that today. It was even on Morning Joe this morning. They were talking, oh, Krispy Kreme's going to give you a donut if you get your COVID vaccine. So my job is really to make you feel sorry for the person who's eating the donut instead of feeling sorry for yourself because you're not eating the donut. So I'll stop there, so back to you.
Thank you. Now our next segment I'm calling Questions from Zoomland. Oop, and my little ear thing just came out, but what Jessica is going to be doing is relating questions to me that have come in ahead of time, or you can raise your hand and ask one. We've got about 10 minutes for these questions. So fire away, Jessica. Or if you're in the audience and raise your hand, we'll call on you.
Well, while everyone is getting organized, I did have a question come in from one of the dieters to me privately. They want to know your opinion of bison versus beef.
Of bison versus beef?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both pretty fabulous as long as they haven't been fed a bunch of hormones. So some people would say bison are better because they're more free range. They're certainly lean. You know, I like it a lot. I eat grass-fed, no hormone beef. It's going to cost me a little bit more, but rather than, you know, some of the standard grocery store beef, I try to spend a little extra money and get as good a quality as I can get. But I've had a bison burger in the last 6 months at our local grocery store. We can now get an organic version that comes in little 1 pound packets. And so I've eaten that. I've ordered bison from gourmet restaurants in days gone by. I'd say they're both good, and I enjoy them both. Another
Thank
question?
you, Zola. Zola, that was me that asked that. I was just wondering because I'm thinking about ordering some bison from North Star Bison in Wisconsin, and from what I read about it, it's pretty awesome. But
Yeah, I mean, it is awesome, and you're looking at ordering it from a quality organization that does a good job. So I think you can certainly feel safe with it. Like I said, I don't know if you'll be paying a premium price or if it's actually going to be more economical for you, but either way, I'm a fan of bison.
it's expensive, but I think it'll be worth it.
Well, looks like Vicki has a question.
I do. Actually, it's more of a statement, and hopefully everybody enjoys this. I live in mid-Ohio, Bellefountain, Ohio. but my husband is a hunter, huge hunter. And when he harvests his deers, he harvests them himself. That is a very lean cut of meat, venison is, and he cuts all of the game fat off of it. I can have like a little deer petite steak, and it's absolutely delicious. When you take the gamey out of it from the fat, it's really, really good. And that is a nice thing, even on reduction or reboot, or even Z Life. Just wanted to share that.
No, Vicki, that's great. And I'll share with you that I have ordered venison in some very fancy restaurants around the world, you know, or a restaurant in the United States where it was shipped in from Australia or New Zealand, and I've never had a bad piece of venison.
Well, I have another question to offer.
Vicki,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
hey, Jess. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I had a little question for Vicki, actually, because she mentions that her husband was a hunter. And I just wanted to know, do you have any recipes that you might consider sharing with us for venison?
Boy, do
We
I
do.
ever. If it involves beef,
We,
I can do it with venison. I have made venison chili.
if you have some tips, or
Yeah, I have made venison chili. I have made venison with vegetables. Like instead of having a roast with carrots and potatoes and all that other stuff, I would do venison with vegetables. My husband likes venison and noodles, so that's kind of his thing. I don't do the noodle thing. But yeah, I have almost sworn off of beef, with the exception of getting to go to Texas Roadhouse and getting a petite steak or something, because venison is our red meat. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, Jennifer's husband is becoming a hunter, so
Oh,
he's looking forward
yay.
to bagging his first deer. So he'll need to know what to do.
he's trying. He's
Well,
so
my-
excited. He doesn't even know what to do with himself. Last deer season though was a bust, but he's working hard at it with a bow and arrow. He's trying to. Oh my God.
Apparently, I mean, I don't know.
Pretty
I don't know this for a fact, but apparently it's quite rewarding. I don't know. I don't want to see it until it's in the little bags and in the freezer.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay. We got time for a couple more questions. What do we got, Jessica?
This question came in from one of the participants before we started the Zoom call, and their question is, I'm 77 and need to know if this works for us mature people, as well as a bit more lazy since all this COVID stuff.
Well,
Really
you
good
could ask a
question.
few people whose faces are smiling right now. Our average dieter is starting to trend a little lower now, but for many years, the person's been over 50 years old. Historically, our oldest dieter, when she started, was 83. She called me up one day and she said, I need to lose some weight. I gained about 30 pounds when I had my son, and he's now 62 years old and I still have that weight. And so we helped her get the weight off and taught her how to keep it off. And the next thing I knew, she sent me pictures. She became a senior model and was walking the runway because she's so happy to be rid of that weight. And she was so much healthier. So we have not found an age limit.
Thanks. Georgia says it worked for this 53-year-old. Zola, I'll be 80 in 9 years, I think. So I'm at my college high jumping weight right now. So it does work for older people.
Most of the people on Plan Z are not trying to get six-pack abs, and they're not trying to get back into a bikini. They just want to feel better. They want to be healthier. They want to be able to reduce meds if possible. You know, some people say, well, Plan Z is pretty expensive. And then the next thing I turn around, I get an email from a guy who says, I'm saving $1,200 a month on meds. This is a drop in the bucket. You know, so it all kind of evens out in the long run, but it does a whole lot of things for elderly or older. I shouldn't say elderly, I'm up there, you know. But for people who, you know, have a few years on their backs, But we're also finding out that, like I said, we're getting more people, more 35-year-olds. Some of it's because the radio stations we're running on, but a lot of it's anecdotal stories. And I don't necessarily refer to this year, but there are lots of times when younger people don't see their parents until they come home for a holiday. And so maybe they've been at college for a few months, or they've been raising their children and they haven't gotten together. And they walk in the door and they go, "Oh my God, Mom and Dad, what happened to you?" And they tell them about Plan Z, and then the child says, "Well, I want some of that." And we've had lots of parents who have even subsidized the diet for their children in order to let them get the weight off too. All right, one more question.
All right, next question is, I feel full after I eat. Do I still need to take the spray?
Yes, 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 and yes. And here's why. I mean, the food will fill you up. What I'm more concerned about is the rest of your day. The ZR50 is cleverly called Crave Control Spray, but that isn't all it does. You know, we were talking a little bit ago and referring to some stuff that Jim said. The elements that are in the spray start off by helping your body put itself in a position to burn fat. And so you get your insulin balanced out by eating right and things like that. Your body doesn't want that fat, and it doesn't care if you put food in your mouth or if you burn it off of your thighs. It feels like it's at a buffet. So calcarea carbonica is the element that's in the formula that helps that process happen. It's been used for a couple hundred years. It's the most widely prescribed weight loss homeopathic remedy in the world. Nobody knows exactly how it works. They just know the terminology that they use in that industry is that it's for fleshy people. But there are other things that that formula does that are there to support you all the other hours of the day when you're not eating. And it's got elements in it to keep you from being crabby, because lots of people get crabby on a diet, mostly because they feel sorry for themselves for all the stuff that they're having to give up. But it literally can kind of sour your mood when you're eating stuff out of a frozen box, you know, that you've microwaved, when you really need to get satisfaction out of your food. And the sad thing about that is a couple of weeks into the diet, the people around you say, "Why don't you just quit that doggone diet? You're such a crab." And some people succumb to that. But if they've got the ZR50 Crave Control Spray in their system, they're not as crabby, or they're not crabby at all. Some people get headaches when they get on a diet and they're having to detox, or they get joint pains. I've had people with rheumatoid arthritis tell me that their pains have totally gone away while they're on Plan Z, because their joints feel so much better. But in the long run, you know, the nice thing is when you lose the weight, your joints are celebrating. So even though you don't feel hungry after a meal, you should still take the spray on schedule. All right, we got two more things to cover off on. One of them, actually, Jennifer, would you mind talking about both of these? The first one, I think, is the recipe booklet.
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody, all of our Plan Z dieters out there, that we do have this quick fix recipe booklet on the website. All of these recipes are listed individually too, but if you're looking for quick, kind of like food hacky sort of food solutions for last minute meal prep, it's very helpful, and it kind of gets you inspired to think, you know, I mean, most people who are on the program already know that, you know, it doesn't really take too much extra time to make a lot of these recipes that we have on the site. We try to curate our recipe collection so that they're pretty easy and straightforward and not too complicated. But this quick fix recipe booklet, all the recipes in here are very, very easy to do. It's like 1, 2, 3, dinner is done. So it can be helpful, especially during pandemic time when, you know, our lives are up in the air. A lot of us are managing big families at home with added demands of work and house and family all together. It can be helpful to just try to maintain your weight and not succumb to that, you know, average 29-pound gain that a lot of people are experiencing right now. So it's on the site. If you type in quick fix into your search bar, you'll find it. If anyone, you know, if you want to just type your message to type your email to Jessica, who's the moderator, we can email this to you directly after the call. If you're Actually, we could do that to anybody. So even if you're not on the program, if you are interested in taking a look at that, just send your email to Jessica and we can get that out to you so you can take a look and try some recipes if you'd like.
Yeah,
The
that's,
next topic
I was
is-
looking at that yesterday, Jen, when you sent it, and those are great recipes. And Zola, you were kind of the 5 ingredients or less specialist for a long time. And these are some of your easier ones to put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I originally became a food writer, that was
Yeah.
one of my claims to fame was 5 ingredients or less. Even a fool can cook like a gourmet. All right,
Yeah,
let's tackle.
And we've actually in the last 2 years, I think we've. Oh yeah, let me just finish this one thought. We also have a section on the recipe site for 5 ingredients or less. So there are more recipes than are in this quick fix little booklet on the site. If you look under that category, you'll see a whole bunch, and those can be really helpful right now. Oh, and by the way, salt and pepper don't count as ingredients in that 5 ingredients or less, even though they're technically ingredients, but some of them may have like 6 if there's salts or pepper.
I promised that we would be complete with this at 45 minutes. I think we've just hit that now. If anybody has any more questions, you're welcome to email them to us directly or give a call to the office. I would appreciate feedback from each of you in a quick email, just letting me know what you thought of this process of Zoom with Zola, and we'll make a determination as to whether or not we're going to keep this up. If we are going to keep it up, I'd like to know if you want to be semi-loyal to it, you know, that you would be willing to attend once in a while. And otherwise, you know, whatever way we communicate together, you'll hear from me and you'll hear from the team again soon. So thank you very much for participating in the inaugural Zoom with Zola. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.